It was a breezy Saturday evening at a small park on the edge of Fairfield, Connecticut. The kind of evening where families gathered, kids played soccer, and teens sat on benches with earbuds in, scrolling through their phones. The golden hues of the setting sun cast long shadows across the lush green grass, and the sound of laughter, friendly banter, and occasional cheers from the soccer field created a peaceful yet lively atmosphere. 16-year-old Michael was one of those teens sitting quietly under a tall oak tree. He had a book in his hands, its pages slightly ruffled by the evening breeze. Unlike most kids his age who were glued to their screens, Michael found solace in the words of great thinkers and philosophers. He was a quiet but observant boy, his sharp mind always processing the world around him. His younger brother Jordan was finishing up soccer practice, and Michael had promised their mom he would wait to walk him home. Michael's attire stood out in the casual setting. He wore a fitted black suit with a crisp white shirt and polished black shoes. It wasn't often you saw a teenager dressed this way at a park, but Michael carried himself with an air of quiet confidence. He had always believed in presenting himself well, a habit instilled in him by his mother, who often said, "Dress not for where you are, but for where you're going." As he turned a page in his book, the low rumbling sound of motorcycles pierced through the evening calm. It wasn't unusual for bikers to pass through Fairfield, but tonight something felt different. The deep growl of the engines didn't fade into the distance as usual. Instead, it grew louder, closer. Michael finally looked up, his sharp eyes scanning the entrance of the park. 5 bikers dressed in leather jackets and dark jeans rolled in, their motorcycles gleaming under the streetlights. They parked near the soccer field, dismounted, and stood in a loose formation. Their presence was imposing, their expressions unreadable. The families in the park barely paid them any attention, too engrossed in their activities to sense the shift in the atmosphere. But Michael noticed immediately, and more importantly, he noticed that they were looking directly at him. The moment their eyes locked onto him, Michael felt a knot form in his stomach. He wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but years of training in karate had sharpened his instincts. The way they carried themselves, the subtle glances they exchanged, and the deliberate manner in which they approached him, it all signaled one thing. They were here for a reason, and that reason involved him. Michael forced himself to remain calm. He kept his posture relaxed, his book still open in his hands. But he was acutely aware of every movement around him. His breathing remained steady, his muscles loose yet ready. His mother's voice echoed in his mind, "Never let them see you sweat." One of the bikers, a burly man with a shaved head and a thick beard, took the lead. He walked toward Michael with heavy, deliberate footsteps, flanked by 2 others. Their expressions remained unreadable, but their intent was clear. As they closed the distance, Michael calmly dog-eared the page of his book and set it aside. "What are you doing here, kid?" the burly man asked, his voice gruff and direct. Michael raised an eyebrow, his head tilting slightly in mild confusion. "Waiting for my brother," he replied, his tone polite but firm. The man smirked, exchanging a glance with his companions. "This doesn't look like your kind of place." His words carried an unspoken challenge, a suggestion that Michael didn't belong. Michael's jaw tightened slightly, but he kept his expression neutral. "It's a public park," he answered, his eyes never leaving the man's. The biker's smirk faded. "Got a smart mouth, huh?" He stepped closer, the other 2 spreading out slightly, creating a semicircle around Michael. Their movements were calculated, designed to box him in. But Michael didn't move. He remained seated, his hands resting loosely on his knees. "Look," Michael said, keeping his tone measured, "I don't want any trouble. I'm just here for my brother." The burly man chuckled, his voice low and taunting. "Trouble? Who said anything about trouble?" Michael could feel the weight of their stares, the unspoken challenge in their posture. His hands stayed where they were, but every fiber of his being was alert, calculating. He had trained for years in karate, not just for competition, but for discipline, for self-control. Fighting was always the last option, but if it came down to it, he was ready. A sudden voice broke through the tension. "Leave him alone." Michael turned his head slightly to see Jordan standing a few yards away, his small frame tense with determination. His younger brother had wandered off the field, sweat still glistening on his forehead from the game. His fists were clenched, his young face set in defiance. "Jordan, stay back," Michael called, his voice firm. The bikers turned toward the boy, grinning like predators spotting easier prey. "This your brother?" one of them asked, pointing a gloved finger at Jordan. "Maybe we should teach you both a lesson." Michael felt his pulse quicken not with fear, but with resolve. He stood up slowly, his movements deliberate. He planted his feet in the stance he had practiced countless times in the dojo, his eyes never leaving the group. "Don't touch him," Michael said, his voice calm but edged with steel. The burly man laughed. "Look at this guy, thinks he's tough." The others joined in, their laughter echoing through the park. But Michael didn't waver. He remained silent, his stance unmoving. The bikers had expected fear, panic. What they got instead was unshakable confidence. One of the bikers lunged forward, aiming to shove Michael's shoulder, but before his hand could connect, Michael moved. With practiced precision, he shifted to the side, his body reacting like a coiled spring released. The biker stumbled slightly, caught off guard, but Michael didn't stop there. In one fluid motion, he struck the man's wrist, twisting it away. The biker grunted in pain, his hand dropping to his side as he stepped back, glaring at Michael with fury. Another biker swung a wild punch. Michael ducked, pivoted on his heel, and delivered a sharp kick to the man's knee. He crumpled to the ground with a cry of pain. The third hesitated, giving Michael just enough time to execute a spinning kick to his ribs. The force knocked the wind out of him, sending him staggering backward. By now, a crowd had gathered at the edge of the park. Parents, kids, even soccer players had stopped to watch. Someone had pulled out a phone, recording every second. The burly leader, red with anger, charged again. Michael stayed light on his feet, dodging with agility that only years of training could provide. The biker lunged, but Michael moved faster, delivering a precise strike to his solar plexus. The man gasped for air, his tough exterior cracking. "Enough," Michael said, his voice carrying across the park. His stance remained strong, his expression calm. "Walk away." The leader hesitated, then, with a growl, turned to his friends. "Let's go." As they limped to their bikes, the leader pointed a finger at Michael. "This ain't over, kid." Michael didn't flinch. He simply watched as they roared away into the night. The world wasn't always fair, but in moments like this, courage and discipline made all the difference.